All set? Are we all set? Okay, excellent. Good evening. This is the Guilford, Connecticut Board of Education. It is Tuesday, October 11th. I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation. It's a exciting board meeting tonight. We have our student representatives for the year joining us for the first time. So we look forward to introducing them in a few minutes. We are going to start off with action on the minutes. So I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the September 12th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Any comments or corrections on those minutes? I'm going to make one correction or request. So under 6 communications, where it notes that I read the statement from the board in response to the pending litigation, I'm going to provide the full statement for inclusion in the minutes, which I think is better than trying to kind of summarize or parse and should have thought of that before, Terry. So thank you so much. But what I'll do is provide that. So I'm going to ask that be an amendment to the meetings that instead of
So language on the website. So we'll strike 6 totally.
we're gonna strike 6. I'm suggesting we strike 6 and replace it with
With the statement.
the full statement. Are there other corrections or comments? None. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the September 12th, 2022 meeting minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Are you okay? I'm sorry, you had.
I was saying aye. No, it's fine.
Okay. Is that everybody? Aye, sorry. Okay, any opposed? Okay. Excellent. And now the September 27th, 2022 workshop meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any comments or corrections to these minutes? None. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, that's everybody. Thank you. All right, we are up to number 4, public forum for topics on the board agenda. Is there anyone in the public who would like to address the board on topics on the agenda? All right, seeing and hearing none, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Hurst for the review and approval of expenditures for the month of September.
The expenditures were $6,963,260.61. Pretty much the same percentage of the budget compared to last year. Revenue was $50,650.75. A few highlights from the budget. Employee benefits shows that we're paying a lower premium this year. And it turns out that we searched for a new workers' compensation insurance broker, and that came in at about $150,000 less than we paid before. It's considerable, a lower premium. We show that the percentage of the budget that was expended is higher than the prior year. It's mostly a function of timing payments. No surprises. And we have one over expenditure on that part of our capital budget. over expenditure due to unanticipated projects and increased costs. That's specifically, an asbestos removal at Bolton School. That, that's the order sheet. A couple of things on the sheets that followed it. We show, a big increase in water this year compared to last year, and that turns out to be simply the timing of the irrigation bill. We also show that we went up significantly percentage-wise for security, and that is a function of the fact that we replaced the security camera with cops. Finally, the last, what looks like an anomaly, we have a doubling of textbook costs this year, and that's in part because we bought new high school language arts. Those are the highlights of the things that look a little different.
Excellent. So this is something, finances and warrants that we discussed in depth at the operations committee meeting just prior to this meeting, but certainly open to any of my colleagues who might have comments or questions. All right, hearing none. Can I please have a motion to accept and approve the expenditures for September 2022? So moved. Motion second, this direction. All right, thanks. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's everybody. Thank you. Right, up to communications. Does anybody have any communications?
I do.
Share? You do, okay.
I have a request from a friend who has a really cute brown and white guinea pig. And they want to know if any of our elementary schools would like a pet. So if any of our elementary school principals would like to adopt a guinea pig, let me know.
That is a fun communication.
We do this every month.
Only if they have pictures. It's 3 years old. I can find a picture.
All righty.
Dr. Boss, if I may, I'd just like to share that I was really pleased to have an invitation from the American Legion last week and have the opportunity to speak with Guilford's American Legion folks. We talked about student performance in the Guilford schools. We talked about security. We talked about plans for the schools moving forward. Very much appreciated the invitation, and it was a real pleasure. Yeah, when we spoke about the reports for the graduate as well. So a real pleasure to be able to speak with the American Legion.
Oh, wonderful.
They weren't giving out free pets though, were they?
There were no guinea pig offers.
Wonderful. All right, well, that may be the most fun agenda I ever have. All righty. Although now I get to ask Ms. Chapp to come join us and introduce, if you would, our student representatives, one returning who we know well, and two new.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Julia Chaff, principal at Guilford High School. I am pleased to have present Ruby Espejo, who is returning from last year as a student board of education representative. She is a coach in unified sports, member of the Spanish Honor Society and co-president of that society. She is a member of the Leadership Congress and the Cultural Competence Committee, and is currently working with me and Principal Guerin on a No Place for Hate campaign for both GHS and Adams Middle School. She is the manager of a Instagram spirit page called Guilford Cave, and one of the photographers for that as well. And she, as you all know, is very passionate about helping others and has an interest in pursuing a career in politics and exploring careers within politics. So welcome back, Ruby. Wonderful to have you back.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to present Clara Gom, who is one of our juniors. She is an IB diploma student for the class of 2024. She's a member of the varsity cross country, indoor track, and outdoor track teams. She plays the clarinet for the wind ensemble. And she is a mentor, not only for other musicians, but also within the student mentoring program, at which we will be kicking back into here this year. member of the Spanish Honor Society, and also a member of the Leadership Congress at Guilford High School. So welcome, Clara.
Thanks, Claire.
And last but not least, we have George Wiley, who is also a junior this year. He is also a member of cross-country, indoor and outdoor track. He is a co-vice president for the Guilford High School class of 2024. He's a member of both the math and physics teams, a French Honor Society member, and a member of the Guilford GHS Wind Ensemble, the sports band, and the Guilford Town Band. So welcome, George. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
So this is a time and agenda when we often hear from each of you about things that are going on in our schools. Again, we may have board members who want to call and ask questions about some of what you report. But I just want, as we kind of embark on this next year, to invite you to reach out to Ms. Chaff or to me or to Dr. Freeman if there are topics that you're hearing about at school, or things that you think you would like to kind of address with the board, or things that would be important for the board to consider. I really welcome you to do that. I'm just going to be honest about the fact that I think we've underutilized, if that's the appropriate word, or under-engaged, that would be a better word. And I take full responsibility for that, our student reps in the last couple of years. So I really want to make sure that this is not just a place that you report school events to, but we really like to engage with you on matters that you think are important for us to consider. So I just want to welcome you with that statement, and then turn it over now to you.
Thank you. So I'm representing A.W. Cox and Adams Middle School, as well as I was last year. For A.W. Cox, they are kicking off the school year with their theme of courage, where the students got to dress up as superheroes last Friday. And it was very exciting to see all the little kids with their superhero costumes. And as for Adams Middle School, 7th graders are doing team bonding activities, which opens doors for communication and connections within the within the Adams community, as well as activities and clubs after school. A lot of students are partaking in those, as well as sports teams. It's just a very good beginning of the school year for both schools in the district.
Yeah, this year I'm going to be reporting on Calvin Lee and Baldwin Middle School. This year Calvin Lee's welcoming a new principal, Mike Seal. They're very excited to have him, and they're looking forward to a great year ahead. On September 29th, Leet hosted a family beach party at the Jacobs Beach Pavilion. They had a pizza truck, ice cream, the whole thing. It was a great way to kick off the school year and enjoy Guilford's beautiful amenities. Students there recently began this year's enrichment programs. Those include cooking, running, and beekeeping. They give kids a chance to discover their passions and have a great time outside of the classroom. Students at Leet are also going to celebrate Diwali, the Festival of Lights, next Monday and Tuesday. They're going to cover the blacktop in ancient Indian Rangoli art, which will give kids a great chance to explore other cultures. For Baldwin, they're having a great start to this year. They've begun the school year for the first time in quite a while with very few restrictions, which is awesome. BMS is the first time students from all of Guilford's elementary schools are coming together, so relationship building is paramount there. They're very pleased that last Thursday and Friday, all of their 5th grade students were able to participate in a team building trip to Camp Hazen. All the hallways spent a full day at Camp Hazen in Chester, and they participated in a variety of team building activities there. BMS hosted 2 back to school nights. The grade 5 back to school night was on Monday, September 19th, and the grade 6 one was on Tuesday, September 20th. Parents had the chance to follow their kids' schedule, meet the teachers, and learn about their kids' daily experience at Baldwin. Both evenings were very well attended. The BMS PTO has also been very supportive. This year, they were able to provide funding to help support the Camp Hazen trips. They organized the BMS Guilford Citizens Day Parade float, and they'll be hosting a trunk or treat activity later in October. To wrap it up, they're having a lot of after-school clubs this year. including but not limited to drama club, art club, makers clubs, and hiking club. It's a great start to the year in both schools.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm doing Guilford Lakes and Melissa Jones. At Guilford Lakes for the first time since COVID. The buddy system is back, so students are able to connect with other kids within the school, which is fun. And then the Historical Society this past week came and visited all the third graders, talking about different branches of government. And then the third graders all got to do like a mock campaign and mock election. The playground is still being built and worked on. Hopefully the Lake students will be able to use it at the start of November. And then the Fall Family Fun Festival is coming up, which I went to and was super fun. So that's exciting. There's gonna be a lot of activities and food and stuff. So that's gonna be super exciting. At Melissa Jones, the students have also had a good start to the school year. They're all following school expectations, being kind, safe, and responsible. The field trips are back. So the students in grade 1 went to the Guilford Fair, and then all second graders we're going to Bushy Hill. The school held a welcoming ceremony and reading celebration on Friday. So all the kindergarten students and new students and staff were welcomed with crowns made by third graders. And the ceremony was followed by an outdoor reading party to celebrate the fact that together the Melissa Jones kids read 3,513 books over the summer. And then at the high school, we have the sports teams are all starting. Or I guess they've been going for a little while now. And the music groups, they have a couple concerts coming up. I believe the fall play has started. To be worked on.
As well as Ms. Chaff and Mr. Rabin held a kind of an open communications thing for mastery-based diploma. The video is posted on the website for anybody who wants to go see it. I'm again in mastery this year, and it's interesting because we're now presented with the portrait of a graduate, which is a very interesting thing because I'm also in IB Spanish, so we see that the how you say in Spanish is perfil del estudiante, so it's like student profile. So it's very similar, and I actually enjoy seeing how Guilford Public Schools is adapting this new profile, as well as I believe the juniors are getting many more opportunities, which is great because we're the guinea pig class, I guess, for everything. But I heard that the junior class is going to be getting more opportunities for if they have interviews, it'll be mock trials for those interviews in the future, which is great for jobs in the future.
Wonderful.
Great first report.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Great job.
On camera. Thank you very much.
You are welcome to say what we have on the agenda tonight. Bringing again update on the assistant superintendent report, enrollment report, etc. You are also more than welcome to go. We understand you have other commitments, certainly based on the wonderful introduction from Dr. Shaft. You may have Mr. Shaft, you may have several commitments as well as homework. So I'll obviously also please feel free to exit if you would like. But we look forward to the year ahead to you and welcome you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Freeman, turning it over to you again for the update on assistant superintendent.
Thank you very much. So while we have been fortunate to have Mr. Bowler filling this office in an interim capacity, we have also been busy moving forward with the search for a new permanent assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and assessment. We did launch a thought exchange and question to the community to help guide us in this decision. The question that we launched was, what characteristics, skills, knowledge, and past experiences should a highly effective assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and assessment possess? The last time we had this opening, I conducted in-person focus group meetings with easel sheets And I had 3 parents who came out to participate in that event to talk about what we were looking for in our next assistant superintendent. Utilizing thought exchange, we had 327 unique participants who engaged in the conversation. They suggested 191 individual ideas or thoughts connected to that prompt. And that brought in 5,548 rankings of those 191 thoughts from the 327 participants. So we do feel that the thought exchange process, it's not in person, but it does give an opportunity for more participation in the process. We had 220 parents of GPS students who participated in the survey. We had 93 staff members who participated in that invitation, and we had 1 student who participated in that invitation. We're not sure from what grade level. The top 10 thoughts that were suggested and then ranked by community members. Number 1 was that a highly effective assistant superintendent in GPS will value teaching and learning with an emphasis on supporting teachers and principals. We heard that the new assistant superintendent will emphasize teaching and learning, not test scores and assessments. Will be a good listener. Will be empathetic, transparent, and truthful with no political agenda. Will be open-minded to new ideas and new curriculum while being able to rely on past experiences to implement any changes. Those were your top 5. Will be a lifelong learner themselves. Will have teaching experience. Will have a willingness to learn and take perspectives from all when developing or thinking about curriculum. This includes educators, parents, and students. Will have experience in classrooms of differing ages. And the candidate, again, should have classroom teaching experience. We have been meeting with candidates. I'll take you through the timeline a little bit, but I want you to know that we used the thought exchange responses as we debriefed at the end of, I think it was just last week's formal round of interviews. To take a step back a little bit, we posted and advertised nationally for this position. We advertised in Ed Week and with AASA, which both extend nationally. We advertised locally in the New Haven Register, the Hartford Current, with the Connecticut's Public School Superintendents Association, and with CT Read, which posts all certified Connecticut teaching positions. We drew 32 completed applicants, and we drew primarily from the Northeast. With our principal searches earlier in the summer, we drew as far south as Florida and as far west as California. It was interesting that the response was more regional for this particular opening. So while we were very, very pleased with the quality of the pool, the quality was regionally sort of limited to the Northeast this time. From those 32 completed applications, Mr. Bowden and I conducted 22 screening interviews. Of those 22, we moved 6 forward to a representative committee of 10 individuals. That committee included myself, building level administrators, a Board of Education representative, and Dr. Balistraci. Teachers were in fact the largest. They represented 3 of the 10 people on the committee. We had 2 parents and we had 1 12th grader. We had 1 Guilford High School student who sat on that committee. We met, as I said, 6 of those candidates. And of those 6, the committee is moving 3 candidates forward. This week, I will be meeting with each of those candidates individually. The assistant superintendent positions, there are only 2 in the district. They work very closely with me individually, so I'm having an individual meeting with each of those candidates to actually talk about working styles and how they and I could partner in this position. But then next week, on October 18th, those 3 individuals will be coming back to another committee. This one made of 6 individuals, teachers, building administrators, and board members. And this is a more performance-based assessment. And so in this meeting, we will be having the candidates look at some published educational opinion. We will have them viewing instruction and talking to us about what they actually see in classrooms. It's videotaped instruction, but it comes from real Guilford classrooms. And we will have them looking at data and responding to those data with all of us at the meeting. At the same time, as I move through the individual meetings and prepare for the next committee level, We're beginning more in-depth reference checking, and depending on the finalists of these three, there may very well be site visits that are included as well. We continue to remain essentially on track. We put together a very aggressive calendar for this search, but we do hope that we will have a candidate in front of this board, if not for your first meeting in November, then possibly for your workshop meeting in November. So I really appreciate all of the participation in thought exchange, as well as the various people who have been participating in the committees. Really excited about the candidates that we continue to move forward. And again, hope to have a candidate in front of the board sometime in November for your approval.
Wonderful, and I know, obviously, as Dr. Finley, you just reported, parents had an opportunity, and I know we have parents on the board, you may or may not have taken part in this, but we've heard a lot of the comments. I did want to make sure board members had an opportunity, if they wished, to kind of share their thoughts on what you might hope we're looking for. And if again, it was echoed in what Dr. Finley has already reported out from the parents, you may be well represented, but I just want to make sure that if any of us had something we wanted to share prior to this last step, this would be the time to do it. Again, I just wanted to make sure. I know there have been opportunities along the way, but I want to make that.
The only thing is just to make, I mean, this probably goes the qualifications that this folks have already displayed, but a really good communicator with our community. You know, it's a very academic role, but to just make sure that they are very comfortable in that arena, very solid and for the community. That's great value. Great.
We'll be looking for the next Anne Keane and Lou Crystal and Jody Bowler. That's all. That's all we're looking for.
Yeah.
Dr. Freeman, if we are able to have someone in front of us for November, when would they start?
That is going to be contingent on what their contract in their current employment says. So it could be 30 days if we're sort of fortunate. It could be as much as 90 days, depending on what their current contract holds for them.
Excellent. Well, that sounds great. And I had the opportunity to sit on as a board member, a number of search committees. I know a number of each of you have. It's such a an interesting and great experience, but also really I so appreciate the process, Dr. Freeman, that you set up in terms of not only the many steps that someone has to go through, but the range of perspectives that get brought into the assessment process is so important. So
It's so helpful to have a student voice.
oh,
It's wonderful.
really fabulous. A very important perspective and great questions. So I just naming that it's a rigorous process, which I appreciate. But the way that a number of people in the school community work together, I think is very good.
Thank you. I also wanted to give the annual update. October 1st is our official enrollment day. And so I want to report out to you what our official school enrollment looks like. Now, this number will continue to change over the course of the school year, but for all state required reporting purposes, this will be our official enrollment for school year 22-23. There's a lot of information on this page. So what I'll draw it's why I particularly like this way of looking at enrollment. What we're looking at this school year is that in grades pre-K through 4, we have a total enrollment of 1,113 students when you include the pre-K classes. If pre-K is not counted, if you're looking only at K through 4, we're looking at an enrollment of 1,065 students. At Baldwin in grades 5 and 6, we have 468 students enrolled. I'm over on the bottom left. At Adams in grades 7 and 8, we have 486 students enrolled. And at Guilford High School this year, we have a total enrollment of 1,051 students. This gives us a total school enrollment this year, district enrollment rather, Pre-K through 12 of 3,124 students. When you look up at the large grid, this also allows you to see what the elementary sections look like. And what we can tell you is that in grades K through 4, we run an average class size of 17.8. That is across 60 classrooms that are distributed in 4 schools across 5 grades. We run high classes in the 4th grade that get as high as 22, and in one case actually hitting 23. And we run lows in the kindergarten sections of a section as small as 14 or 13 students. Again, we've talked about this many times. When we have neighborhood schools and when you distribute the classes across 4 locations, it makes it very difficult to get classes completely evenly distributed. If we had one school, pre-K through 4 of 1,000 students, we would have classes that were completely evenly distributed. But there is some variation because of bubbles that may move through any of those local communities. I do want to remind the board and point out for the community that this distribution includes the addition of 2 classes that were not budgeted for this year. I want to draw your attention to the kindergarten sections at Jones. We had budgeted for 3 kindergarten sections, but we added a 4th based on that enrollment. And I want to draw your attention to the 2nd grade at Leet. We last year had 2 sections moving from grade 1 to 2 at this grade level, and we extended that to 3 sections again based on that enrollment. Now, there has been other movement that has continued to occur, and again, these numbers aren't fixed. I was contacted today by a parent who's relocating from one elementary district to another elementary district in Guilford. So while we don't experience lots of movement or transience in Guilford across the school year, these numbers will continue to move and we will continue to track them. Also want to remind the board and note that in addition to the 2 unbudgeted classroom positions, we brought on an additional 3 unbudgeted special education positions over the summer. That's in addition to an increase of 1 that was already built into the budget to add additional service for special education across the district as well. So that's the October 1 snapshot. And again, we'll continue to monitor, but happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Can you explain at the pre-K level, just the variance in the different class sizes?
So at the pre-K level, there are 3 all-day classes and 2 half-day classes. The smallest numbers that you see are students who are in for only half-day sections.
Okay.
And then remember that pre-K is built around students with special educational needs, and so it may have as much to do with the complexity of the individual student needs as it does with the raw numbers. Those numbers will continue to change across the school year as well as we enroll more students who pass the age of 3 and need school servicing.
Yeah, Dr. Freeman, looking at kind of the trend of 9th through 12th grade as compared to 1 through 4th grade, like averages 262 or so per class for the high school grades, 213 for the elementary grades. How does that line up with what else we're seeing statewide? Like, I know we're kind of talking a lot about this downward trend in enrollment numbers. Like, is this to be expected? Is this better than expected? Like, how are we kind of doing as a town?
It is a slower decline than most other suburban communities have and are experiencing. So it is a decline. It appears to be slower than what other similarly situated communities are experiencing. Number of neighboring and surrounding communities have closed elementary schools because of the more severe declines that they were seeing. But that's also one of the significant questions we're asking in the new demographic study that we just commissioned. So we will, in our 10-year study, we have commissioned another 10-year demographic study looking forward. So hopefully that will give us more information on birth rates, right, over the last 5 years that we don't really, as a school district, we only see kindergarten enrollment. And so hopefully we'll have more information from those 5 years, we'll look at birth rates and we'll get an idea of what to expect moving forward. The last 10-year demographic study that we had essentially sort of thought we'd see the same decline that other similarly situated communities experienced. And so we've been declining but below the rate that was projected by that last study. Hoping this one shows something that we can sort of track a little more closely too. You will notice that there's a significant bubble class that is graduating from the high school this year. Senior class is significantly larger, you know, by 30 or 60 students than any of the classes that follow.
And we've been watching, we've been watching this in March, right? The grades for a year, March. That's the way I think of it, I guess,
Yes.
but just that the lower class numbers. As the.
It's the millennial generation, which you know, school, out of high school and elementary. So the next generation is just much smaller. It's not a nationwide.
Yes, there's a few exceptions in Connecticut. South Windsor is actually bursting. They're growing. There's a couple other communities that are growing, but most suburban communities that you would consider similar to Guilford are shrinking.
That's a really unique situation.
Absolutely. Yep, there's a lot of, they're building schools to keep up with the population there. It's very.
In Windsor.
In South Windsor.
So
Yeah.
Particular demographic. It's really like mixed together, so it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
It's
very
community.
Yeah.
It's an affinity community. It's growing. It's really fascinating.
Terrific. Well, it certainly these numbers suggest that the decisions for these classroom teachers were good ones.
Yep. Indeed.
Great to see.
And the only thing I'll add is again, that 17.8, right? So 18 is a really generous class size. It is a good class size to be able to have in our community, and we absolutely appreciate the community support to be able to provide class sizes in that range. It is, I would suggest, lower than many other communities in the state of Connecticut.
My first board meeting in this town, not as a member, but attending, was when my youngest of two was in a kindergarten class at this time now. Was 22, so this was a while ago, of 24. And several parents, I was included in the board and said, you know, we'd like to look at that. And the commitment to kind of lower class sizes since that time has been steady and consistent, and
That concludes my relatively brief report tonight.
wonderful. All right. Then we'll go on to the board agenda items. 9.1 is to act on personnel items. So we are being asked to ratify the appointment of the following teachers. Jenna Mealy for Cox Elementary School, a grade 1 teacher, and Maria Kleiner, Cox Elementary School, a library media specialist. Is there a motion to approve these appointment of these two teachers?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Terrific. All right. And then we're being asked to ratify the resignation of the following teacher, Elizabeth Evans, 0.4 FTE World Language French teacher at Guilford High School. Is there a motion to ratify the resignation of Elizabeth Evans?
Second.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, terrific. All right, 9.2. We're being asked to approve a donation of $3,520 from the Guilford High School Fencing Booster Club for a new metal strip for the fencing team. You know, the metal strips are what they fence on, otherwise I imagine it sounds a little strange. But is there a motion to approve this donation from the GHS Fencing Booster Club?
So moved.
Second. Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
And once again, thank you to the Fencing Booster Club, and really thank you to all the booster clubs who do a tremendous amount to support our athletic and other teams at the school. All right. 9.3, act on setting a 2023 graduation date. I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you very much. So I know the board is aware that with a change in legislation, there is no longer a requirement that we wait till April 1st before being able to set a graduation date. Setting the date in advance will allow families to plan their activities around graduation and will allow the community, particularly the group that plans for the all-night safe graduation event for our students, to plan and make reservations and hold the space for that event, and it gives them a lot of flexibility. I know that last year there were questions about if we identify the graduation date now, and then there are snow days, what happens with those in that situation? So Ms. Chaff and I have spoken to a number of other districts and high schools around the state. A number of districts who took advantage of this last year said very simply that the graduation date is set, the exam period is scheduled for the week prior to graduation. Should there be snow days, that schedule will hold for the senior class. And the last day of classes and the exam schedule will slide forward for 1 or 2 or 3 days as necessary to accommodate freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. The seniors will still have their graduation date. They will have their exams done. They will be welcome and in fact encouraged to attend school on any of those additional days, but it will have no impact on their ability to be prepared for graduation or the receipt of their diploma. So what it could mean is that we could have 2 last days of school, one for the senior class that you were being asked to approve tonight, and then one for the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And again, that's what many of the high schools in the state have did last year with the new legislation. And I think what many of us remember from when we went to school, I remember the senior class being done a little before the underclassmen graduated. Mrs. Chaff is here to answer any other questions if you had any more specific questions. But again, we'd ask to set this date and allow the senior community to start planning, the senior class to start planning.
So anybody have any questions about this? Just exams, like, so say a senior is taking a class that's typically a junior level, you know, a junior class or something, they've got a final that's now a day after grad, so they're coming back for that final. Is that, or are you gonna
No,
accommodate
we-
seniors somehow? with
We
that?
would make an accommodation for that.
Okay,
Good.
got it. So there's some specific.
Yeah, so we would allow that student to take the exam or a version of that exam during the senior exam week, even if the rest of that predominantly junior class didn't take it until a week later. Was that correct? Is that accurate?
Yes. I just hate the idea of graduating and having to show up Monday to take the finals. That's-
Well, and I imagine there potentially could be a few teachers who are teaching a class of juniors and seniors together who are having to be a little bit flexible towards the end if this does occur.
Correct, and just a reminder from our conversation last year, a lot of this, I would say a good number, probably majority of the seniors are exempt from exams because they make sure that their grades are high enough that they do not have to take an exam. That said, the teachers are flexible with those combined classes that have different grades in them anyway.
Right.
And so I know that they can accommodate an early exam schedule for the seniors. Obviously, the administrative team will help to support that as well and make sure that the seniors get what they need before graduation day.
Does this affect the staff in any way?
No, the staff will continue to work through the last scheduled day of school as created by snow events or other emergency.
We did have an opportunity, right, for a lot of this discussion at the end of last year as we were trying to grapple with this. All right. Thank you. Wonderful. All right. So is there a motion to approve setting a 2023 graduation date for June 16th, 2023?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. All set. 9.4 is to act on submission of consolidated grants application, and I am going to ask for a little bit of support from Mrs. Trudeau to explain a little bit about what this is.
Certainly, I didn't know maybe Dr. Bowler wanted to chime in on some of this as well.
Oh, anyone who would like to help, we are welcome. Oh, terrific. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So,
That would be great. I
I
know that I will not be the best person to explain it.
Sure, the consolidated grant includes Title I, Title 2, 3, and 4. And the Title I grant we submitted and we got it approved. And a lot of the grant that I worked with Kathy on was actually informed by Amy before she left.
Okay,
So she looked at the current use of the Title I grant for the 21-22 school year. And then to continue the work the district has done in this area, in these areas, she added money that was given, it's federal money.
Right.
Given, coordinated to support these activities.
so this is the Every Student Succeeds Act, so ESSA grant funds. They must be used to narrow the achievement gap and create academic excellence for all students, prepare students for success in college and careers, support district and school improvement efforts, and support effective teaching and leadership. I will note that across the Title I, II, III, and IV parts, we get, and including then the Learn Consortium, it's an application for $166,647. We are, of course, always grateful for the support. A number of districts, obviously in Connecticut, would receive considerably more. We're a community that is receiving 166. Lots of.
Yeah, these are federal grants. They are based on community need, primarily calculated based on our free and reduced lunch approved population. And so this is the calculation. These are the monies that we receive, and the breakdown that you see in front of you shows you the areas in which we will target those dollars, and you can see that they're in alignment with the 4 bullets at the top.
Right, so I'll just note for the public, Title I, Part A, the allocation of $108,484, literacy and mathematics support for students performing below grade level, additional summer programming, resources for embedded and ongoing professional development. Title II, $41,862 for professional learning academy program offered to teachers. STEAM, math coaching and literacy coaching support. Title III, $6,301, additional tutoring services to students who are English learners. And the Title IV allocation of $10,000, training for teachers in classroom discourse around dealing with controversial issues and diverse perspectives. Again, supporting those 4 bullets above and allowing us to do a number of important things in the district.
Just a point of clarification, STEAM is actually is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math with art from it.
Right, thank you. No, that's an important.
There's stream
distinction.
too,
There's stream.
stream robotics.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very good.
I have a question about the allocation of funds. You mentioned it has to do with the application for free and reduced meals. Is that the general baseline for how the funds are allocated?
The federal funds are allocated based on need. And then, as you know, in the 4 bullets above, they need to target helping students who represent that
Right.
need in closing their achievement gaps. So yes, so there are some, there are dollars that are there for us as long as we spend them in the identified areas. Guilford receives a relatively low amount of dollars compared to some other communities because of that relative measure of need.
The only reason why I bring it up is because, you know, in the last two years or so, right, we've had, you know, free lunches. And so I just wonder how that plays into allocation when you don't have the typical amount of applications for free and reduced lunches that you in a normal year you would. So is it a true measure of what each town truly needs?
It's a more complicated measure than that, but free and reduced lunch is a significant portion of the formula that they use to determine that local need. And so, yeah, it is, right, it's important for families who qualify for those free and reduced lunch benefits to fill out the application so their children can take advantage of those benefits, but it also then benefits us when calculating that need and generating dollars that will then come to the school system. Yeah.
And again, that's a great point. And every district in Connecticut is having that same issue. I
Yeah.
Right.
from personal experience. So I think the state looking at that and receiving federal dollars that usually is a slight increase from one year to the next. Guilford looks like it received similar funding to last year.
Very good.
Other questions? All right, so we're being asked again, to act on this. Is there a motion to approve, the submission of consolidated grants application?
So moved. Second.
It's all in favor? Aye. Excellent. All right, 9.5 is just a receive item. This is our budget timeline somehow already. Another year of considering budgets. So it does give us a timeline through early spring. I did want to bring to the community's attention that next Wednesday, October 19th at 7:30, here in Guilford High School Media Center, we will hold our public input on the 2022-2023 budget. This is an opportunity for the community to come to the Board of Ed and note things that you would like us and the administration to consider as the budgets are being formed. So there's not a budget to comment on yet, but it's really an opportunity for the public to note things that they would like us to consider or prioritize. So again, that is next Wednesday, October 19th, here at Guilford High School at 7:30. Do I have that time right as well? I just wanna make sure. Excellent. All right.
And we're doing just one of those meetings. this
We
year?
do one of those, well, so we typically do, no, we typically do one in the fall, and then in January, we will do two.
When there's an actual budget.
When there's an actual budget. And then, of course, we are all seeing on this timeline a number of other meetings dispersed throughout this that we'll want to be paying attention to. We have a couple of joint meetings with the Board of Finance, meeting with the district leadership team. These all come up in December and January. Meanwhile, our administration is attending all kinds of meetings related to the budget. So that's a receive item. Any questions about that? All right. We did have on the agenda 9.6 recommendations from the policy committee. We are going to be holding these until the next meeting. So we're just going to defer that item for this evening.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so I'm up to 10 reports of committees. I imagine the policy committee may have something in addition to those, or not.
Well, we are tabling most of those just simply because we couldn't get the documents to this board in time for tonight. What we discussed in our policy meeting, first of all, thank you, everybody. I had asked the whole board to attend that meeting, and I'm really grateful that so many people were able to make that. Thank you. We discussed a few new policies, some changes to some old policies, of which the public will hear in our next meeting when we're actually going over the policies themselves. In summary, we discussed student wellness, nutrition, and physical activity, which is a focus really on healthy food options and making sure that we've got food and beverages that are healthy available for all of our students. We talked about Title IX, which is about sexual harassment and discrimination, which is really Connecticut state statutes that we've got to uphold. We talked about community participation at board meetings to try to streamline that and make it logical for folks to be able to come and talk to us. And we spent some time discussing bylaws, which are simply kind of the rules by which this committee operates. So we'll have more specific detail on that once we're actually able to take a look at all of those and vote on them in our next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Operations committee.
I have no real update other than what we've already covered in the meeting.
Wonderful. Curriculum Instruction Assessment Committee.
We're meeting on 17th.
Wonderful. So that's coming up. All right. Liaisons to town committees.
Yes, the
What's the
19th is a special meeting. We meet before the regular meeting on the 24th.
Oh, 24th.
Yes.
Okay. October 24th. Does anybody have liaisons to town committees?
Need to report out.
All right. Liaison to Warren Board of Directors, we are discussing an approach to attend that meeting, which happens on the second Thursday of the month in the morning. Hard with the number of us who are working, but we will continue to talk about that. So we've gotten through reports of committees. Number 11, an opportunity for the public, if anybody has public comment that they would like to direct to the board, this is an opportunity to do that. Anybody? I ask that you give your name and address and ask that you limit comments to 4 minutes, please.
I will keep time. I'll raise my hand at 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
You have my rights, I'm not supposed to do that.
Sorry?
I'm not supposed to move the camera away from somebody that's in the meeting. Legally, I don't think so, but I'll do it.
No, it's not a legal concern. No,
No.
I think it's okay to keep it on the board. Thank you.
Yeah, you can keep it on the board. Thank you.
It's supposed to be documented what happened. So.
Yeah, well,
understood.
you can still hear me. I'm here to talk about the systematic racism of having more cops in our school again. And I am still very angry and still have a lot to say, but, you know, I guess, you know, I was reading the names of victims when I was interrupted and dismissed last time. And these are lives of Black and brown people that have been murdered by police. And not only did I find that extremely disrespectful, I found that unnecessary. Because I have come to this Board of Ed over the years, many times before. I have watched plenty of people go over their time. I have had the chance to come up twice to the podium in one meeting before. There was nobody after me. Simple moment of silence to honor the victims of police brutality. So, you know, when an all-white board tells a Latina that you're gonna call a recess, which is something I've never seen you do before. That's systematic racism. And I do not appreciate that. But I will thank you for not having the police present today. And since my personal experiences of feelings, how I dealt with that is not something that needs to be addressed further. I'm just going to read a few passages from a document I found at the Yukon Center of Education Policy and Analysis about SROs. And so here we go. And I'll be happy to email these to the board. SROs are more likely to work, are associated with higher rates of exclusionary discipline and arrest. Additionally, numerous studies show that the presence of SROs in school is associated with higher rates of exclusionary discipline, suspension and expulsion, increased risk of students being pushed into the school to prison pipeline. Students of colors across the nation and in Connecticut in particular are disproportionately subject to these exclusionary discipline practices. In Connecticut, suspension and expulsion rates for Black and Latino male students are 2 to 3 times that of their white counterparts. The suspension rates of Black female students is around 5 times that of their white counterparts. The presence of SROs is associated with increased racial disparity in suspension rates.
SROs are associated with increased school arrest and thus may accelerate the school to prison pipeline. For example, schools that employ police had an arrest rate of 3.5 times that of schools without police. As an exclusionary discipline, students of color are disproportionately subject to school arrests. In Connecticut, Black and Latino students are arrested at 4 times and 2 times the rate of white students.
We're at 4 minutes. So I'm gonna ask you to please wrap up your comments, and then if you have stuff that you would like to email us to read, you may certainly do that. All of our email addresses are on the website.
Moreover, trauma and anxiety symptoms can increase with the frequency of police contact regardless of where that contact occurs. The presence of police shifts the focus from learning and supporting students to over-disciplining and criminalizing them.
I'm gonna ask you to wrap up your comments, please, because you've reached the 4-minute limit, and then please feel free to reach out by email if you have more that you want to share with us.
I just want to say, that this gets changed because there's no need to have more security. It has been proven time and again that it does not stop mass shootings. And if that's the only reason to do it, then it shouldn't be there. There should not be police here.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public who would like to address the board at this time? You're gonna ask to give your name and address, if
Sure.
you will. Thanks so much.
Hi, my name's Alex Etherington. I live at 150 Boston Street in Guilford. Just wanted to thank all of you for the what is, I'm well aware, a very thankless job, and you all volunteer, and I really appreciate it. Very late to this discussion because I know in 2015 you moved the school start time for Guilford High School back 15 minutes, and I'm sure that was the product of very hard-won compromise and controversy, and so I don't need to thrust more controversy upon you, but I do think moving start times, particularly for high schools, back is one of the things that has the most clear research support for improving safety, improving educational outcomes. I know it's very complicated, potentially costly, but I would like to respectfully ask that it remain on the docket as something that we consider. It seems like a lot of positives if we can work through the complexity of it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we had, I want to say that we met for 3 years.
It was 3 or 4 years.
But it's such an important issue, for sure. So, thank you for bringing it to the attention. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? All right. That brings us to the end of our meeting tonight. Again, a reminder to the public about the public input on the budget next Wednesday. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
So moved.
Second. Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.